Good smoky morning, everyone, in Missoula, Montana. It is May 19th. I'm here to usher you into this smoky but warm weekend, getting into the mid to high 80s. I took this picture early in the morning when I was driving into work. As you can see, the sun is definitely peeking out of the mountains around this time. It was around 6:30, 6:40 when I took this picture when I was driving in. Just a nice, interesting red moon in the red sun in the morning. Kind of take warning out there for all that smoke that's coming in from the Canadian North as they're dealing with some wildfires. At the same time, dealing with two fires near Alberta and British Columbia, and some of the Arctic winds from the north are pounding down, pushing up some of the smoke down. Some of the areas in Missoula are considered unhealthy, which stands at 114 particulate matter in the sky, and that's usually around for folks who have asthma, who have breathing issues, or even young children should stay inside. It is not really Malta, Sydney are one of the examples that have the worst smoke with hazardous level of more than 200 particulate matters. And the 114 particulate matter is from Missoula's Boyd Park testing. You know, there's just a lot of stuff happening in and around. You know, it was a little bit cooler this morning, but this weekend it's going to be into the high 80s, so we can expect those temperatures to go on throughout this weekend. And then we're going to get a more of a chill as more and more rain and stuff is going to be happening throughout next week. But you can expect a better, warmer weekend, but I'm not so sure about the smoke. But at the same time, we don't usually get a lot of smoke coming from the north. So. Speaking of storm, Montana has become the first state to ban the popular social media platform TikTok. Governor Greg Gianforte signed a bill into law this week and won't take into effect January 1st, 2024, but some experts suggest this ban seems impossible to enforce. In many ways, Montana has the right to do whatever we want as long as you're not harming anyone else, but this thing could open the door to many lawsuits in the future regarding wrongful termination or wrongful fees, because you will get fined up to $2,000 to $3,000 if you have TikTok, from what I've read on this bill. In many ways, Montana has not been able to deal with the fact what folks do with their own time and have their own social media, because it gives your employer an opportunity to essentially cyberstalk you. However, this ban was based on the intention that China is using social media platform to spy on Americans, especially in some instances that they could get access to top secret areas through people's mobile devices without them knowing. Gianforte, our governor, said the Chinese government party using TikTok to spy on Americans, violate their privacy, and collect their personal, private, and sensitive information is well documented. Today, Montana takes the most decisive action of any state to protect Montana's private data and sensitive and personal information from being harvested by the Chinese Communist Party, end quote. Moving on, more lighthearted news happening in the Missoula and also Montana, Western Montana region is that Dick Johnson, city band of Missoula, Montana trumpet, is turning 100 years old this weekend, so I wanted to give a shout out to the happy birthday and give a little retrospective of the guy. Back in 8th grade, his mother took him to see a high school band. Fred Curtin needed a trumpet player, so they suggested Dick play. His folks brought him to King Liberty Trumpet for $45 from the music store. Phil Patterson, a Gilmore band clarinet player, and city band director. He didn't practice much. Uninspired in 8th grade, he got into the high school band at 13 years old. In 1951, Dick came to America. A Dixon fellow, Bob Costa, who golfed with him, retired in Missoula. He came back at Christmas and saw Dick's mom and inquired about him. He said he was an opening for a dentist in Missoula, and Dick Johnson took it, and he's been living in Missoula ever since, and this Sunday he'll be celebrating it. And just to give a little bit of retrospective, some of the history, he was in one of the city bands at the time in which there were more old fogies than there were young bucks on the city council, according to what Gary Gillette would say. And you get a nice retrospect. His trumpet he's right about here. If you can take a closer look at him as well, just to kind of get a nice look of the man. So Dick Johnson turned 100 years old, and also here's another picture later on along the line. He is the trumpet player, I believe. He's around here. But then again, yeah, just happening as well. You know, it's not it's interesting, but you don't see too many people who make it to 100 a lot of times. But you know, performance. They did a performance at the railroad station in front of the county courthouse. The city band, the audience was louder and louder, not paying attention. And you know, Dick Johnson worked so hard, and he played even louder, which you definitely gave representation of. Trumpets are pretty loud as well. So. When the Missoula Symphony started up, Dick Johnson borrowed a horn from the UM and became the only horn player. He had to teach himself how to transpose with an instruction book, write in the transposed fingerings in pencil so he could play it. So Sunday he will be celebrating his 100th birthday and his 72nd year in Missoula County. So happy birthday. And as we move on, another young guy here in the city of Missoula is being sued. City Council member Daniel Carlino is being sued by the couple who felt Daniel Carlino acted in bad faith on their bid to build a 26-unit multi-million-dollar complex in the downtown Missoula area, directly across the street from the Missoula Public Library on Front Street. From past meetings, Carlino has taken interest in the need to retain housing for folks who live inside the homes that will be demolished to make way for this project. This FOIA was filed earlier this month and cites that Daniel Carlino used his status to drum up opposition to this project and had ties with the residents of the two complexes across the street from the library. The law firm representing the couple also filed a Freedom of Information Act requested the city seeking all records, correspondence, and social media posts from Carlino made relating to the Front Street development. The couple that runs the development bought the property back in 2018, and for the last couple of years have told their residents that have been renting from them that they do plan on demolishing these two homes and building this site. After some time, a lot of them, this was also during the pandemic, and a lot of them were unable to find any other housing that was along the same lines or cheaper, and so they were kind of stuck in place, but it didn't really help that Daniel Carlino also during these meetings was being, according to them, disingenuous in creating a us versus them scenario in how he went about opposing this development. Of course, I did follow the story, like I said, and the quote from the article stated that landlords who fought against the bills that would help tenants' rights are part of the problem, Carlino said, while Sullivan sees Missoula renters as a source of profit. I know that Missoula renters deserve better. So in unrelated news to Missoula, one of the stories that kind of tickled my fancy just recently was the saga of Kanye West, or Ye for now, has turned over a new leaf just by watching the 10-plus-year-old movie 21 Jump Street. So the movie starring Jonah Hill, after he saw Jonah Hill's performance in the comedy reboot of the 21 Jump Street movies, in which he starred alongside Ice Cube and Channing Tatum, he thanked Jonah Hill for saying that he loved him, and now he likes the Jewish people because of that performance. Most people get epiphanies on the toilet, and in this case, he just got out watching this movie. And the funniest thing is that I read this article on the Times of Israel, posted the story that followed the celebrities' fall from grace and their apparent comeback. Of course, Adidas is planning on selling the Yeezys because they're backstocked with about $1 billion in assets, and they're planning to sell it at a different price across UK and many other countries. Not so much, I'm not sure if they're selling in the United States, but you know, Kanye will still get 50% of those sales moving forward. So up next, we have another fun compilation of their Saturday Drop-In Kids. So without further ado, here's this. And when I come back, we got some pre-critic.
Hello. I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with me. Who the heck are you? I just told you. Listen. I'm from the future. How dare you point at me? You were pointing first. Rude to point. You're being very rude. You're not even believing what I'm saying. Which one pointed first? Spider-Man pointed first. Obviously. You're pointing at me right now as you say that. Look at you. Look at your finger. Look at your finger right now. Different than normal pointing. You are pointing at me. You're accusing me of pointing while you're...
Ugh, what is that thing?
It's art.
So what you're telling me is that this is art?
Well, yeah, it's art. It's subjective. It's supposed to enact a reaction.
Ugh.
Well, you know what? Really
Whoa.
made to bring us together.
Whoa, my art's come to life!
That thing is alive. We have to kill it. We have to kill it.
Oh, settle down. It's not that bad.
Art is life, which means I'm a real boy, Papa. Through the act of creation, you have proven that the human spirit is enduring and worthy of our time on this planet.
Well, that was really weird.
Yeah, art's
Yeah,
trash.
don't let it ever happen again.
All right, well, I'll see you later, Papa. Guys? Hello? I'm scared.
Okay, so that Saturday dance party and Saturday drop-ins are going in well through the month of June, and then we're going to take a break in the month of July when we're doing all those summer camps that we got going on. Most of them are full. Our only summer camp that is open is the week of I believe it's January 24th through the 28th, and that's going to be the last camp, otherwise known as Animation 3. There are still about 5 spots available. All other camps have completely been full, and there's a wait list on a couple other ones as well. So there's that one week that doesn't seem to be getting filled up, so if you guys want to check that out, you guys can fill that up too. The camp is for ages 8 to 14. If you have a kid that's interested in doing some stop animation, that is the place to be. And now let's jump right into some pre-critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but my prejudgments. So this is the 10th movie of a series of movies. Welcome to the world of Fast and Furious and family. In this installment, Jason Momoa is the bad guy in this movie, and most likely in the sequel, he'll be the good guy. Blah, blah, blah. Enjoy a bunch of original cast from Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto to Tyrese Gibson trying to pay the bills as Roman. Enjoy a franchise that kind of started off kind of like semi-serious and took kind of like the whole WWE wrestling approach when it got an injection through The Rock. But now we're dealing with a series of movies that doesn't have Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and just kind of going with it as they keep the heel, and even Dom, as was the villain in one movie at one point, because he was manipulated by his former baby mama, who conveniently died for Dom and Letty, who also thought was dead and had amnesia and tried to kill a lot of them, and then had to raise the kid, no questions asked, because family, family, family. And then this next movie is even the weirdest thing. It's a French movie, but it's also kind of multi-genre, Chinese, Vikings, Roman, Cleopatra, medieval, all that kind of stuff. So what is this mess about? It's basically got a French movie starring Marion Cotillard as Cleopatra and Vincent Cassel, you know, the one-hit wonder actor from the award-winning movie The Artist, join forces in this weird, terribly costumed Viking Caesar salad of nations in this comedy. Anyways, the plot is as thin as their special effects, as there is a small misfit village of Vikings caught up in some kind of intercontinental threat to society from a Chinese kill who is in, so, wait, from a Chinese kill. I gotta rewrite these a lot of the times, but from a Chinese girl who is also the love interest. Barf. All right, up next we got Hypnotic. Ben Affleck, here we go again, in these types of thrillers that kind of go at the wayside these days because you either realize that these are over-actor, or either the best acting performance or worst acting movie. But in thrillers, it's kind of like they coincide. It's weird. It's like the best and worst acting is in thrillers. Then we got The Cow Who Sang a Song into the Future. Spanish horror film that gets weird, if not disturbing, because let's face it, when there is a sign of doom is coming, there's always a mass death of livestock of sorts. Master Gardener, scraping further in the bottom of the barrel, is a movie about a fast-paced fast-paced world of gardening, starring Joel Edgerton and Sigourney Weaver, fresh out of the way of water, being a teenager to a rich lady who pays this gardener's bills, only to make him hire a good-for-nothing family member to be the apprentice. But of course, he has a dark past, because why not? He also happens to be a secret badass, because otherwise gardening in an actual movie would be boring. All right, so those are the movies that are coming up this weekend. Up next, we have another dubbing stuff for you guys, where I took an old 1940 1940 movie called 21 Days Together. Before the prosecution rests, I would like to bring up a couple more witnesses to the defendant, for he has proven without a reasonable doubt that he is guilty of the crime of stealing the last gummy bears. A crime, mind you, is worse than the penalty that will be inflicted upon him. And of course, despite the fact that we have tried to negotiate with their counsel for a proper punishment settlement, we have decided to not pursue negotiations any further. And we wish to have a final decision made by yours truly, Your Honor. Before we finish this, I would like to bring up the first man, Clark.
So, you see, Ronald Reagan was in town, and he loved them jelly beans, but the only thing we had was those gummy bears. So, may I read to you a note I made at the incident? So, when President Reagan came in and he looked at the gummy bears, he was just like, I guess it'll do. Like, it's whatever, who cares? And in conclusion, we didn't have any jelly beans, and he was very disappointed with us.
Now you say you can identify. Well, I'll try my best. That's all I can do. May I remind the witness that he is under oath? Yes. Get on with it. As I was saying, Your Honor, bring up the evidence of the partially eaten jelly bear. Oh, let's just take a look. Let's see what we got here. Oh, that looks like a jelly bear to me, or a gummy bear, as Would you say that this jelly bear was in the bowl in the break room? Well, of course it was. I was there. No further questions, Your Honor. He's glitching out, as you can say. Am I glitching? Now, would you say that my client was the one who stole most of the jelly bears? Don't look at me. Oh, yes, that's him. And are you 100% sure you saw the client taking the last jelly bear? Well, yes, I did. You can believe me? Well, thank you for that very convincing witness statement, sir. Well, it's what I'm paid for? Next, I would like to call a character witness, his mother, for the prosecution. Now, you see here, ma'am, I'm not trying to attack your son. I just
don't know what to do anymore about that boy. He was such a good boy back in the day, but as soon as I heard that he took that jelly bear, I was like, no way, no how, I can't believe he did that. That's not cool.
Now, Miss Davis, would you agree that he's always been bad?
Well, he was born on the 6th month of the 6th day of the 6th year, so maybe. Where did I go wrong as a mother?
All right, I think I've heard enough from this witness, so let's strike it from the record. Well, I'd have to object to that, sir. Yeah, but she's kind of mischaracterizing the witness and you're not really answering. Well, I would personally love to hear more from this lady, if you don't mind. Are you guys sure about this? Because, you know, her hatred for her son isn't really based on facts or anything like that. It's just mean. Maybe we should just take a recess. And may I suggest we go to the candy shop? Candy, let's go to recess. Yeah, recess. All right, hey guys, welcome back. Let's jump right into some city council. During the city council meeting, there's definitely a lot going on here. We're going to jump right into some public comment. Travis Mateer, who has spoken in the past, is concerned about the overlooked pandemic happening here in Missoula locally, and this is what he had to say.
I wanted to bring another little item of show and tell and show you what failure to acknowledge the drug crisis looks like from a local journalism standpoint. The individual, and I'm not going to say his name because I think that would be breaking decorum. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes this morning to find a connection on his Facebook page that he's friends with a man that had been arrested for selling meth out of the authorized camping site. It didn't take me that long to find that. Of course, drugs were only referenced in a very small sentence in this article. If we're not talking about why a 24-year-old young man who looks able-bodied, maybe that's unfair of me to judge from just the visual, why someone that left Superior, Montana as an 18-year-old and is still homeless on the streets. When I talked to him this morning, he was very not happy to have a conversation at 10:30 in the morning as he was trying to sleep under a tarp. But I wanted to ask him questions because I'm interested in what's going on in this community with drugs and with young people, like Joey Thompson, who was found dead in Mineral County, someone who I am actively investigating to figure out what's going on. So As City Club talks about the death of local journalism, I think it's long dead when you have articles like this. They can't acknowledge that this young man obviously is dealing with some drug abuse issues, and that we don't have the treatment options in this state or the consequences for someone that's chronically violating the law. And so this is a serious challenge. We need all hands on deck for the drug epidemic that is raging.
All right, so yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack with those statements as well. And just going back to my notes as well, is that he referred to the City Club, that meeting that they had, you know, the impact of local journalism in a small town as, you know, journalism becoming more mainstream in a lot of different ways. The lack of local journalism happening in Missoula and the gap between folks coming to Missoula to get services to help with the chronic homelessness as it pertains to alcohol and drug use. However, later in the meeting, Travis Matier took aim at the Poverello Center and saw himself out when called out by the mayor.
I just want to point out that the Poverello Center Executive Director position is a great position to start a career in sort of civic or political government. And so it might not pay a lot, but there's intangibles. And I just want to recommend anyone considering getting involved in local government, consider being executive director for the Poverello Center. As long as you keep your mouth shut about people that are murdered inside your facility and some of the sexual assaults that are happening and some of the other violence, that you might be able to ascend into board position.
I'm going to ask you to stop making a personal attack about one of our.
That's not a personal attack. I'm talking about an organization.
Thank you. Any else?
Point of order. Everyone should feel comfortable in this chamber, and shouting does not do that. Point of order, Mr.
So we're going to recess. We're going to recess, and we'll be back in order when.
All right. So yeah. So the city council recessed after that incident right there. The voice of the mayor, Jordan Hess, responding to allegations Travis Matier has been a voice for some of the folks on the street struggling and not getting the help that they need. Some of the questions arise from the fact, is the city doing enough to help folks, or is Travis just simply kicking the hornet's nest to get something, even a little recognition for his efforts, those in need? The unfortunate position that Travis found himself is very reminiscent of how the state legislature of Montana necessarily feels about Missoula and our efforts to block a bunch of the bills that passed. The city went into recess as Travis saw himself out. An article came out on the Missoula Current that referred Travis as, quote, Matier is one of roughly 3 individuals who comment at nearly every meeting and sometimes several times during a meeting. These comments are often sarcastic and aggressive, and they often set off a bad tone for the meeting to come, end quote. And, you know, of course, you know, it seems to me, and I'm taking this kind of more of my opinion, is that a lot of this could have easily been avoided if they just let them talk and just kind of moved on after they talked. I mean, that was the city used to do, because public comment has always been seen as talking at the council and not getting a response until the end of the meeting, to which the mayor did address the council should be a safe and should be a safe space for all during the meeting. And of course, part of the consent agenda passed as the many federal grants and local dollars to support affordable housing in Missoula, and the Trinity Navigation Center is now open. Many of these facilities are available. In a lot of ways, you know, I've talked to many people, and like, if you were to get rid of a lot of the drug and alcohol problems that people have, homelessness essentially would disappear. But unfortunately, Poverello Center is an institution that is dry, and it only helps those who want to help themselves. And if they're addicted to drugs or have an alcohol problem, a lot of times they don't work with a lot of these folks. You know, what you do outside of the facility is up to you, but while you're in the facility, you have to stay clean and sober, and that's just a non-starter for a lot of folks who are struggling with a lot of these issues as well. And on top of that, mental illness is another issue going on there forward. State of Montana has, you know, passed, like there's some money moving towards mental health as well, not to mention the mental health crisis intervention team is a big part of Missoula now, moving forward with helping a lot of these folks who are dealing with a lot of stressors. So moving forward as well, you know, like I was talking more about these opportunities, all these opportunities. All right, check 1, 2. All right, are we good? Are we back? Check. Okay, sorry about that. That was just a little bit of technical difficulties right there. But yeah, homewards, Carissa Tajrillo talks about this money in terms of federal grants and all this money going towards helping the population of affordable housing.
To thank the Housing Redevelopment and Community Programs Committee for the recommendations to fund our homeownership center, as well as the portfolio improvements. As in addition, thank you to the city staff and the panel who did the application review. The work that is being accomplished with these funding sources should be celebrated, and we celebrate your efforts and your support. With the funding for the homeownership center, we will positively impact over 1,000 people with homebuyer and financial education and counseling in a time where the dollars are being stretched thin in our community. In addition, 67 Missoulians living at or below 80% of the area median income are going to be positively impacted by the improvements to their homes that this funding is going to support.
Okay, so there's a lot of things moving forward even after the fact that a lot of facilities have opened up and things are moving forward as well. And you know, there's from this report, and they did this during community meetings, and I've talked about this as well, but there are roughly over 160 projects in place through these grants, and they hope to continue their efforts to help people find affordable housing and more permanent housing in the future. Doug House Davis, developer, is protesting a zoning request sitting on the zoning would not match with the developer's intent with a particular site that's near so the rezoning is basically to allow for more infill into a neighborhood that's just off of Russell near Montana and Idaho streets. And Doug House Davis says is that there wasn't enough done, essentially, and this is what he had to say.
The applicants should have never had the expectation to have this level of density. And in achieving that level of density, they did, to their credit, work with us. And so I don't entirely blame the applicants here. Ultimately, it's city staff that has derailed this and made it just not really a workable situation for us. But without a compromise with regards to the development, we're just not able to spend any more money on this. We've dug deep to make this work, and it's just not happening.
Okay. So this is a kind of a continuated effort as a rezoning. Like, you know, for the most part, I was just like, oh, it's a rezoning and it changes things. But there was a lot of folks trying to balance the neighborhood wants with the city needs, also not being able to work with the city staff in matters showing that in this rezoning has become too much up to keep with staff time, and many potential developments failing, like the area off of Idaho Street towards River Road. Davis asked council to throw this back to committee or at least vote it down and not to capitalize on the maximum. Dan Cederberg, who owns the property, wants this to move forward, and this is what he had to say about this.
We, in good faith, looked at the master plan, looked at all the documents, and there are 16 dots on this property in that plan that you approved. We went and we reached out to the neighbors and we attempted to make a plan that would work. We worked with staff, and we've worked with you all. And we think now is the time to vote. We think we've done everything correctly. We think it's a good project. We would respectfully request that you approve the rezoning tonight.
Okay. So that was Dan Cederberg with the developer. Some of the residents of the area, Eva Dunthropig, gave comment on some of the things and is very concerned that not all of the issues were addressed.
The reason that land is zoned R20 is because of the floodplain, and the adjacent land is R80 because of the floodplain. And it is a 100-year floodplain, and we do have concerns about that. And the reason we did not bring that up before and to not protest is because we wanted to collaborate with the developers, and we believe that the alternative plan would mitigate some of those floodplain issues, with the highest point of the block being the alley right-of-way.
All right. So yeah, I mean, one of the big things is, you know, moving forward with this is the age-old question of, like, you know, the Montanas are Missoula moving forward, you know, downtown master plan, all these other buzzwords and everything like that. But in layman's terms, it's the whole idea is that the closer you are to Missoula, they want to build higher density. And also they're dealing with the fact that a lot of the older neighborhoods, especially more of the established ones in some of these areas, have a little bit more space between the housing, but with more units. This is just one of many projects that had input from city staff that raised some concerns from citizens beyond the floodplain nearby. Dunthrobig was disappointed by the lack of collaboration that they would have loved to be a part of to address these issues, and so far the city recommended that this pass the rezoning process, which would affect density and not so much what would be built on the block. And the city asked Jim Nugent how they can work around the protest period, because the neighborhood in that area were able to get enough signatures to get the protest, and so the city needed a supermajority of 2/3 vote, in which it passed 8-1. How they build can be denser, but what they can build can open the door to opportunity for further discussion with the developers as well, because rezoning is just the allowance to size and what they need to build. Developer recommended the rezoning to the city and staff to be like, hey, you know, we want a bigger space, but we want more flexibility with the space as well. Do you mind bumping us up to a different zoning area for this? And they're like, sure, whatever. So yeah, this is just one of the things that is moving forward. You know, it kind of feels like it's very consistent with kind of the Missoula's trend of where the city council, just like a lot of the neighborhoods in the neighborhood, just like, we're not so sure we want to be in our neighborhood. And the city is like, well, we're developing higher density and we're trying to keep up with demand for housing in the city of Missoula. And so they're just moving forward with it regardless. And this seems to be a consistent thing happening in Missoula, as I'm definitely starting to notice as I report on it as well. Public hearing on the YMCA expansion. You know, the YMCA is going to be building indoor sports and family center for folks. They're also expanding, which includes a building for child care center and an airnasium, which is, I had to look it up, it's kind of like a giant pavilion. One building seems realistic. Of course, you know, they helped raise some of this money. This was part of their capital campaign to raise money for this expansion, and the city had very little input on this passing of this hearing, which they could do regardless of city input because it's on their property. So, yep, that's what kind of happened there. And I'm going to move right over to committee meetings, and they're talking about one of the many ways they're going to be addressing parking problems, and that is to do what's called micromobility. It's basically just saying, it's like, hey, you know, we want to mitigate single user driver. So, you know, a person like myself just driving to town is like, oh, you live close to a bus stop, why don't you just take the bus? And like, oh, okay, I guess I could do that. So that's kind of like what they're trying to do, is trying to advocate for this. And, you know, they want to help add another, so wait, hold on, I'm getting off my notes, but this is especially with the University of Montana with their parking issues. You know, it must make I must make a comment that they downsized the Adams Center parking lot to add another building in the area and more physical health programs in the area, including workout centers for their sports teams. You know, the presentation was kind of head started by Aaron Wilson, who in the past has shared some interest in trying to improve the downtown area by being more single lanes rather than increasing the lanes in the downtown area. He doesn't want to have another Reserve Street situation, especially in downtown Missoula, and so that's kind of his motivation going into this meeting.
So when we talk about emerging mobility, there's a lot of different factors that are included in there. Some of it's technology enabled. That includes things like the scooters and e-bikes and all of the new technology that we see. But it also includes new trends like the shared and owner-operated mobility. So we see things like car share and scooter share and ride-hailing services. Just a lot of rapid change happening on that front. And then also thinking just about information infrastructure. So how are we using and collecting data to make better decisions as a community? And you'll see that directly in some of the research that Zoe and Charlie did around shared and micromobility, that there's a lot of data out there and we can use that data to our advantage.
All right, so that's kind of like what they're trying to move forward with. Hey, they had a lot more success when it came to doing the Mountain Line free bus service in Missoula, and they're just like, oh, this is great. We reassessed everything, we altered some routes, and we've been able to be very, very successful, and a lot of people approve of this, even though there's always a couple of people who are just like, I don't want to deal with the bus anymore, I don't like the bus. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but the options are there, and they want to include additional options to move forward with the ability to help mitigate parking in the downtown area. Aaron Wilson also present on that we shouldn't focus on widening lanes and building out car infrastructure, but support an array of transportation options to encourage walking of public transportation as a way of getting around. The presentation also reflects other communities in Montana, and Zoe Walters, permanent land use, talks more about the Bozeman and Bend, Oregon model in reference to these micromobilities.
Findings, we spoke with Taylor Lonsdale, the transportation engineer at the city of Bozeman, and some reported benefits or pros of their e-scooter shared program that they've had in place since 2020 include a high ridership among students and tourists, high frequency of use in the downtown area, and the general added benefit of an alternative transportation option in town. We spoke with Toby Marks, the Parking Services Division Manager at the City of Bend, and Bend has had a growing bike share program in place since 2016, and Bend has a successful bike share program and has seen increased support for their neighborhood mobility program with the local transit authority. Bike share has diversified micromobility options for residents and visitors of Bend. Parking demands in dense areas have seen a reduction due to the availability of another mode for short trips. And micromobility devices have provided a connection to transit, increasing ridership and decreasing single occupancy car trips.
Yep, and you know, it's and one of the reasons why they're trying to move forward with having like ride share options and kind of shopping around for the ability to have e-scooters, because back before the pandemic kind of came into full spotlight, the city of Missoula was trying to figure out what e-bikes or what was the maximum speed limit for e-bikes on certain trails would be. So it was a whole complicated mess in trying to figure that out. But this was what it's all about. The city of Missoula has been fielding calls for a long time to keep up with the capacity regarding folks wanting to work downtown and not have enough parking options. This was after the fact that new parking garage that opened off Front Street didn't really make a big difference in the overall needs of people looking for parking in the downtown area. This presentation is part of a larger effort to get people out of their cars and into some kind of public personal powered transportation system as well. Public comment with Bob G. O'Donnell of Free Cycles talks about the bigger picture in regards to, alternative transportation.
Back in 1996, I was starting graduate school and wanted to do something about sustainability and thought about traffic a lot, then thought about bicycles. And I'd heard about free bicycles, yellow in Portland, Oregon. Kind of blew my mind, the idea of just painting some bikes a color, putting them on the streets and letting them go. That's the beginnings of Free Cycles Missoula. We had parties, we had gatherings, we painted 50 bikes green, we got all the schools involved. They actually came to us. And that's one point I want to make is the excitement was overwhelming. I had no idea what community really was and social programs. I just wanted to reduce pollution. And I was thrown into Free Cycles and got it going. And for 3 years, we released 50 green bikes at Bonner Park at a festival. They would float around the town. I would get calls in the middle of the night. Hey, there's a bike on my lawn. I'd go pick it up, fix flat tires, fix broken chains, no budget, zero. Actually, we had about $1,000. Some of the businesses in town sponsored some bikes. So it was a little bit to work with, chain oil, patches. It was kind of a Wild West type atmosphere. And it was very exciting. Loved doing it, but it wasn't sustainable as was mentioned, with no money and volunteers. And there's another component. We kept hearing from folks, we want to fix our own bike. Could we build our own bike? Could we get better bike lanes? Free Cycles has grown organically. We have a large facility on First Street, and it also led to MIST to advocate and have a better infrastructure. Some of the things that are important to these questions and issues you're discussing now.
All right, so yeah, I mean, a lot of the efforts back in the day as well, not to mention, the green bikes were a great program that a lot of people reminisce about for sure. I still hear about some things. Some people were able to find a couple of those green bikes that were a thing. But, we built these cities to accommodate suburbia, and we forgot that cars aren't the only means of transportation. Perhaps some of these ideas in growth of Free Cycles as a grassroots organization to help facilitate the culture. There's always a good idea. There's a bunch of great ideas out there, but always seems to be the biggest problem is that there's not enough community to help steward these ideas into fruition. So Land Use and Planning also spoke about creating parking areas to encourage folks to use public transportations to ease some of the downtown parking, just having like a simple dorm blazers. You have a parking lot next to your transit center. You can park there, get on the bus, hop on over where you need to go, even if it's maybe an extra mile or so from your destination. It's just another option to get people from parking downtown, and not to mention encourage them to not pay their parking fees downtown as well. So public safety and health dives into Juneteenth as a recognized federal holiday with the advantage of taking the day off and rescheduling around government holiday that President Biden ushered in taking office. So, that was one of the things moving forward is that I believe the third or second Monday in June will be all about taking that holiday day off. And so, it's going to be on a Monday, and so the city's going to make their schedule around that time just to make sure that they're getting what they need to get done. So up next, we have The Last Best Constitution, again titled Voting for Good, with Evan Barrett as the host and guest Jim Grady, research analyst, general government, about suffrage and elections. Let's just take a peek real quick. So this is what they were talking about.
It says, right of suffrage, all elections shall be free and open, and no power, civil or military, shall at any time interfere to prevent the free exercise of the right of suffrage or the right to vote. No one shall interfere. And that language is so strong. Tell me how controversial that, since it's controversial today, how controversial was that back then?
Well, it wasn't controversial at all because that particular section was worked on, I think, with the Bill of Rights Committee also. Right. And all the delegates came from communities in Montana where usually the elections were run by the county clerk and a group of volunteers who were paid something ridiculous like $12 a day to sit in from 8 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. at night and manage the electors who would come in person, and there were military absentee voters. There were not many absentee ballots in those days in Montana. And we all felt, not just the delegates, but the staff, we could never have imagined that there would be any controversy about free elections being able to be run by the people of the local communities with a minimal amount of help from the state government.
All right, so yeah, that was part of the last Constitution. It is a reflection of 50 years of Montana's Constitution that was passed in 1972 when a lot of the copper mining companies lost a lot of their power and lost a lot of their money. And as they were starting to do their sunset and closing a lot of these factories and a lot of these big corporate businesses in the state of Montana, a lot of the citizens that were kind of left behind were free to govern and create this new constitution based on the GI Bill. And it is a great and wonderful representation of our own Constitution of the state of Montana. Only been amended about a couple times in the last 50 years, which is kind of unheard of when it comes to constitutions in general. So Montana's Constitution is pretty ironclad if you get a chance to look at it, in which these Last Best Constitutions is a series by Evan Barrett, who consistently interviews people who have either worked on the Constitution or have also have some stake in history of teaching the Constitution of the state of Montana as well. So that's just a lot of the stuff happening in Missoula and also in the state of Montana in general. So let's jump right into some events that are happening here in the city of Missoula. Let's kick things off. You know, I went to the market on Saturday, perfect, beautiful day, and there were plenty of stands and buskers playing away the morning to early afternoon. It's kind of become a bit of a zoo when it comes to all the people attending and hanging out watching folks at Brennan's Wave near Caras Park, which will start their own out to lunch on Wednesday and Thursdays, kicking off June 3rd. So you guys can check that out. You can go to downtownmissoula.com for more information on all your out to lunch and downtown tonight bands and special events that are going on that week as well. So jumping into your regularly events happening inside the library include, you got some Makerspace open hours starting at 9:30 a.m., Storytime and Tiny Tales every week at 10:30 a.m., Yarns and Watercolor at noon, Spectrum Discovery Center does science presentations starting at 2 p.m. They're open at from 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. Lego Club every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Always on the second floor. Adult Writers Group, it's also online, but also on the third floor. Youth Adult Writers Group, so if you're interested in getting into writing and your kid is creative and they want to write it down, it's a great opportunity for them. D&D for teens on Saturday at 6 p.m. And then also D&D for adults on Friday at 6 p.m. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for people to do some Dungeons and Dragons game. So your regular events, Spring Market is happening right now. From today and tomorrow, spring sale at the Holy Spirit Sorry, it's going to be at the Holy Spirit Church, indoors and out. Thousands of premium, delightful items for sale in Missoula's best prices. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to about 2 p.m. and then starting at 1 p.m. on Saturday, they're going to have special discounts to help get rid of the rest of their stuff as they're doing some spring cleaning. So if you want to do that, Holy Spirit Church. Stroller Strides, Mommy and Me workout class. I've talked about this a little bit, and this is an ongoing series. Go to Bonner Park, just enjoy some workout with some other mommies, and just hang out. Missoula Food Bank Meal Distribution. It's a recurring event every Friday at 10 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Just fresh, nutritious meals for people who are trying to squeeze their pocketbooks as they're trying to get some food. The Sketchbook Habit Summer Series, Lifelong Learning Center, is a non-traditional students looking to get experience or certification, and this one is just all about creating a sketchbook. Lunch at the Missoula Senior Center. This is a recurring event at the Missoula Senior Center starting at 11:30 on Fridays. Author event. So if you're interested in going to meet an author and see the lost journals of Sacagawea, will be held from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Missoula Art Museum tonight. Meet the author, live music by Dylan Running Crane and Joseph Running Crane, hors d'oeuvres and bar. So basically, here's the description of this book. In this visual novel, acclaimed Indigenous author Deborah Magpie Erling vividly brings this highly memorized and mythologized figure to life. As a reader, you'll inhabit Sacagawea's perceptive and follow her coming-of-age story growing up among the Lemi Shoshone, being forced to join Lewis and Clark, Corps of Discovery, and travel a brutal terrain with men who want to conquer the world she loves. Written in lyrical, dreamlike prose, The Lost Journals of Sacagawea is an astonishing work of art and powerful tale of perseverance, the Indigenous women's story that hasn't been told. Missoula Softball for funsies registration. So if you have a team of 9 folks and you want to start your own softball team, Fort Missoula is opening registration at 5 p.m. tonight. This is softball season, and to build up your employee team or just get some friends together. Lucas Ray Yacht Folk Music at Imagination Brewing Company at 6 p.m. tonight. 6 p.m. tonight, University of Montana Admin Center is doing Kane Brown on their Drunk and Dreaming Tour. Archery 201 at the Hellgates Archery Range starting at 6 p.m. You can socialize with a socialist at Kiwanis Park at 6 p.m. You can go to 10 Spoon Winery at 6 p.m. with the Absent Wilson Conspiracy. A cheap date night at Western Montana Astronomical Association is featuring the movie The Martian at the Missoula Public Library starting at 6:30 p.m. This film will be held in partnership with the Western Montana Astronomical Association, WMAA. Missoula's Astronomy Club member and Solar System Ambassador Brian von Lossberg worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in the early 90s. Apollo Suns, The Scurfs, is going to be featured at the Badlander at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Live music with Tree Reform Funk Music is going to be Crank It Sam. 7 p.m. at the Missoula Public Library as well is going to be Missoula's Chinatown. Speaking, Maria Greer leading the presentation. The first Chinese immigrant arrived in Montana in 1862. 2 years before the formation of the Montana Territory by 1870, federal census still 2 decades behind statehood. The Chinese made up 10% of the population. Recent archaeological finds that the heart of Missoula have added to our understanding of this often overlooked period of Montana history, illuminating our multicultural past. So you guys got to check that out. It's going to be at 7 p.m. So either you're going to be at the history buffs or you're going to be at that movie, The Martian, at the Missoula Public Library on the 4th floor. Word Dog, quarterly release with Centerline and Shark Buffalo. Free Cycles, Bob Giordano gave a comment during City Council. Free Cycles is doing a concert starting at 7 p.m. and they're doing a different name music by local bands, Centerline and Shark Buffalo. You know, admission is $15 and comes with a copy of Quarterly. Karaoke at the Jack Salone, Saving for the Day. Just want you guys to know that they did the Saving for the Day premiere at the Wilma, and now the Roxy can be carrying it for the week. So if you missed it at the Roxy, you guys can watch it, and it's going to be premiering again at the Roxy tonight at 7:15. The Drip Make It Fest edition, Auntie E, Belly Scrubs, and Suka see you at the dance floor at Monk's Bar at 8 p.m. tonight. Blue Moon is going to be doing some blues called Blue Moon. Incoming days, Doja at the Dark Horse Bar, and they're going to have some rock music. Zevaria, sorry about that. The Joan Zen Band is going to be a jam band at Union Club at 9 p.m. Comic Sans album release party at the Top Hat tonight at 10:15 p.m. And now we're on Saturday. So that's your Friday. There's a lot going on this Friday, so check that out for sure at MissoulaEvents.net. Saturday, markets start around 8 a.m. and goes until about 2, might be a little bit earlier. I always like to say the peak times are between 10 a.m. and about 12:30 p.m. Good time to check out all the things happening. Bird Head is a bird observed birding ear with the Montana Natural History Center starting at 8:30 a.m. I believe. Nope, this has nothing to do. So it's the Montana Natural History Center. There is a bird watching thing on Sunday I'll get to in a bit. Introduction to Fly Fishing, Life Learning Center starting at 9 a.m. Family fun time at going to be roughly at 10 a.m. Going to be at YMCA, Miserable Gymnastics Ridge Express Center. Indoor fun for some kids who want to get out of the smoke. Show Up for Shelter, Community Hospital. For the 23rd annual Bike for Shelter event, they decided to shake it up. They said goodbye to the bike ride this year, but continue to family fun with free food, games, bounty houses, and petting zoo, an obstacle course, and more. Washington Children's Shelter and other nonprofit partners are excited to see you there. All aboard a historic walk for families. Higgins Avenue in downtown Missoula. Take a walk and explore the railroads, how shaped Missoula and what life was like in Missoula in the early 1900s. Suggested ages 8 to 12 years of age, and this starts at 11 a.m. on Higgins Avenue in downtown Missoula. Registration is required, so you can go to ci.missoula.mt.us for more information. They have a tree tour happening at the University of Montana. This is on the north side near the Oval, near the UC, kind of in the center by Main Hall, just to the left of it if you're looking at it. And so they're doing a tree tour of the conifers and spring tree identification of the University of Montana. This is going to be ongoing on, so in case you missed this one on Saturday at 11 a.m., they're going to be doing this a lot. Open visitation at the Moonrandolph Homestead. That's kicking off the regular visits for a site of an area in which the city of Missoula kind of stewards and kind of has these presentations for folks. It's kind of like its own kind of mini Fort Missoula, but it's a homestead for a kind of old-time living in the state of Montana. And so it's a nice reflection of Montana's history that is living today. Western Montana Genealogical Society Workday. This is a recurring event on the 4th floor. If you're interested in genealogical studies, you can join the society. It's every Saturday at 12 on the 4th floor of the library. I don't know if it's every Saturday, I mean, but it is pretty recurring. MCAT Saturday drop-ins, like I promoted earlier in the show, every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. It's an open workshop for kids who want to do some stop animation, do some editing, just have an environment where we're all on helping kids figure out making movies and stuff like that. So it's fun, but it's also like kids have to come in with a creative mindset and an ability to just be like hit the ground running, because otherwise they're just be sitting here trying to figure out what they're going to do. Anyways, Local Legends open house at the Dana Gallery. Dana Gallery is hosting Janet Sullivan and Dana will debut the new works together as Local Legends. They'll join every art light refreshments. So Dana Gallery, you get Mr. Dana himself. So Barn Cat Country Band is going to be at Imagination Brewing Company, start at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Also 6 p.m. on Saturday as Draftworks is doing Sundog North. Ten Spoon is doing Ed Johnson. Maggot Fest is happening, doing a free block party on Saturday starting at 6:45 Ryman Street next to Bodegas and Red's Bar. This is concert from Reverend Slankley to celebrate the annual National Rugby Tournament. Unlimited beer for $25 a cup and a lot of costumes and merriment. Chevron Irvin at the Jack Saloon is going to be some country music. Missoula Symphony Orchestra. So yeah, there's the Symphony Orchestra that's playing this weekend as well. Is the On Negro Broadway concert was such a success in 2022. They plan on making it an annual tradition, playing a lot of the Broadway blockbuster hits. If you missed it on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. at the Denison Theater, you can always check it out at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Dueling piano with the Dueling Missoulians at 8 p.m. Stave and Hoop. Margie Cates is going to be at Old Post. She's going to be singing some blues and all sorts of different things. Solid State Karaoke at Westside Lanes and Fun Center. Los Toms with visuals by Rainbow Gorilla is going to be a rock concert at Monk's. Jackson Holt and the Highway Patrol at Union Club. DJ Chris Moon is going to be every Saturday at the Badlander. So Sunday, like I said, the library, and so this is wait, hold on a second. It's mental health first aid. And so they're doing a class here at the library at 8 a.m. So this is close to the public, so you have to get an RSVP and get let in here because the library is only open from 12 a.m. to about 5 p.m. on 12 p.m. to about 12 to 5 on Sundays. So mental health first aid is an evidence and skill-based training that teaches people how to identify, understand, and respond to signs of symptoms of mental health or substance use challenge in adults 18 and over, geared through the lens of higher education. This course will help participants to better understand the unique character gaps year, and college students may face, help increase participants' mental health literacy, and provide an action plan on how to provide support for safety and responsibility of others. It's kind of like CPR, but it's for the mental health portion of it, and you get certified too. And so registration has been closed, but they're going to be doing it this weekend at the library. So. Birdwatching Club of Greeno Park is doing a birdwatching club. Missoula County is home to over 200 bird species, and so they're going to meet at Greeno Park parking lot on Monroe and Locust, and so each session is fun and exciting to bird in. Boys and Girls Club is doing their 5th annual tutu trot. They'll be using MCAT's PA system for this event for the fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club of Missoula. Just a little Easter egg for you guys going. YMCA Yoga at the library, 4th floor. It's a recurring event. MCAT Short Day Film. So if you're interested, wanted to make a film in a day, you can join MCAT at 2 p.m. every Sunday. Missoula Symphony Orchestra, like I said, is doing a recurring performance, and if you missed it, it's going to be at 3 p.m. on Sunday. If you missed the Saturday one, at 7:15 p.m. Saving for the Day is doing an ice cream after party, so if you missed the Saturday, you can always go to their 3 p.m. ice cream social along with their movie. So that's what's happening there. I always want to give a nice shout out to John Nellis and his movie that was made here in Missoula for the sake of Missoula, and so that's where I kind of want to end the show here. And for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramp. Here is another fun video for you guys to enjoy, and for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramp.